Dream, discover, design, and destiny. The 4D principle of executing a financial plan, and which is the only framework which works, which matters. I will take you down through this next video how this entire process works. This is translated into 5 Excel sheets. Just go through that, navigate with me step by step, pause the video whenever you require, write down your own informations, understand it carefully, and trust me, this is the best learning which you're going to happen. Whether you are 21-year-old or a 40-year-old or you are 55-year-old, it doesn't matter because the framework is just the same. So in this entire five sheets of Excel, I'll be showing you how to exactly translate your dreams into the financial goals and how those goals will be achieved and what is the actionable steps you have to take to get it executed. Stay tuned, stay focused, learn it for the next 30 minutes undisturbed, and I'm sure this is going to be the best learning lessons in your life. You do not have to look here, there for n number of informations. Even if some informations are coming up to you, those informations will be always a value add to this framework. Set your framework first, rest all the knowledges will automatically fall into it. So let's go ahead. I'm sure you must have all heard different calculators, different timelines, different ways of building your corpus, and an n number of ways in different from different influencers. You must have heard that. But I would suggest you, if you make a blueprint of your entire goals, of all the essentials which you want in your life, if you make it in the same way, like a way architecture, he develops your design of your house. We don't build our house by maybe making one room first, or then maybe designing the windows, or maybe designing the doors. How do we do it? We make the entire plan of the house in one go with the help of our architecture. Then the similar lines, we'll also design our financial plan in a very structured way. It's not like individual goals together, but we'll be making all the goals together in one shot itself. And typically what we have seen, most of us as a human beings, we have around 6 to 7 priority goals. If those priority goals are satisfied, the rest of the life is very beautiful. So today I'm going to narrow it down. I'm going to translate each and every goal into a very smart goal, into something which can be realizable and something you don't have to go haywire and always be as if you're looking forward for something. It should be like that you're creating your own destiny once you make up this particular blueprinting. So as you can see on my screen, I have designed a whole timeline. And here I'm assuming that the person is only 21 years of age, but we need not fear about it. Irrespective of whatever your age is, this is meant for you to plot your goal timeline for the next 20 years. So if you have seen it, I made it in the blocks of 5 and all. So typically how the goals we have almost like to say 5 to 6 goals, which I mentioned is the priority goals most of us has. So first we start with the education goal, where we always say that is a priority which we look into it. Next, we see the technical gadgets which we want in our life, maybe in terms of the mobile, the laptops, and many other essentials which we want to have a very aspirational lifestyle. And then we have a desire of buying a house, having a bike and a car, and then probably to get married at a very decent cost of planning for your wedding you can do. And typically nowadays, all of us would like to have a beautiful vacations, which either we do it once in every year or we do once in 2 years. So this is how we want to structure our plan. Okay, you must have seen that I have made it everything in a point of blocks of 5 years. So typically when we work in a block of 5 years, it is actually possible to execute the things. And predominantly for any person, when we say it is a long term, let us assume the long term is 20 years. And we have made it in the buckets of 4 blocks, which is each of 5 years. So tentatively at any point of time, maybe you're 21 years of age, for you also it is 20 years. If you're 35 years also, you can say it as 20 years. So the age at which we have presumed over here, it is immaterial. What we're trying to understand is that your goals have to be mapped for the next 20 years. And wealth creation always happens on the timeline, not based on the age. So that is the fundamental myth we want to take it out of our minds, that we have to do everything based on our age. When we say start early, it doesn't mean 21. It can be 25 also, it can mean 30 also. So irrespective of the age, we can start making our life into blocks of 5 years. So when we say the first 5 years, we say it as a short-term goal. Then the next two goals, we can say it as a midterm goal. And the last 15 years and that last block of 4 years, that we can say it as a long term. The moment we bifurcate it like that, it becomes very easy. It is irrespective of the timeline which you're going to live. Like, for example, if you're going to live till 100 years, so when you start saying yourself that you're from 20 years, we don't consider 80 years as a long term. So always the long term is defined in the terms of earning capacity, the time when you're making your money kind of a thing. So if you define your long term in the terms of your earning period, that makes things very easy. And as I mentioned, we typically have different goals like education, tech gadgets, home, car, wedding, and vacations. And here at this point of time, take your time. A lot of time you can take it and plot it exactly which year, what all you want to say, what all you need to have it. Initially, like maybe at the young age, you would like to have your two-wheelers first, and then maybe after a year, you want another mobiles or the laptops, and probably you want to go for your post graduations and you want to buy a small studio apartment for yourself. As a bachelor person, you want to spend certain amount of money and you want to build your first real estate. So building a first real estate asset at the beginning, rather than contemplating whether I should go rent a house or whether I should buy a house, keep this as an option. Learn the mathematics behind it, keep whether I should buy a house or not. The moment you structure it well in the next 5 years, things becomes very easy. And similarly, now we can see the vacation also. I have plotted that, okay, I want to go for an alternate year vacation. It can be yearly also depending upon your lifestyle. And next point, what we try to see, keep most of the tech gadgets, what happens, they usually have a very limited lifetime. And it is inevitable that it requires a replacement after once in every 4 to 5 years. And so we consider this also. So it should not be something, these expenses should not come into life suddenly as such, okay, now I want to buy a new phone which is being to launch. And then suddenly I go end up taking EMI or buying it on a credit card or something, what happens then? My entire wealth creation process gets damaged. But if at the day of the beginning only, if I'm very clear that okay, I'm going to change my laptops or my gadgets once in every 5 years, I know that I'm making a provision for that. Similarly, with the house also. Usually, people buy houses once in 5 years. You upgrade yourself. So, if somebody started with a studio apartment over here, he upgrades to the next two-bedroom house, say when he's age 30 years. Similarly, he wants to go for a three-bedroom house when he's 35. And finally, he may be aspiring to have a villa house or a farmhouse at the age of 40 years. And similarly with the cars, also he goes upgrading himself. Maybe he starts with a small smart car, then he goes into SUVs, and then he goes to the luxury car. So it goes like that. So here, what the point, what we are trying to explain to you is that if you actually rationalize yourself and you're very certain that this is the way I'm going to have a healthy, wealthy, and happy life, it makes the things very easy. And then again, your wedding is one of the important key aspects of your life. And we have seen a lot of Indian couples, they spend huge money on this, and suddenly they're entirely devoid of the wedding, the post-wedding life as such. They're already putting their life onto the EMIs and everything. So that's why the entire wealth creation cycle gets jeopardized. Do not worry. If you start making a provision for this wedding right at the age when you're 21 itself, things are very easy. Now, I'm sure that at this particular point of time, you can do it either sitting all by yourself and doing it rather than doing it along with the other family members or your friends or something like that. What happens is that every person has his own lifestyle. He wants it to lead the way he wants. So ideally, if you design this particular sheet on your own and take sufficient time, not just a random filling the cells kind of a thing, it sets the entire next 40 years of your life the best. The maximum amount of time which is spent over here, the best it is. Now, having said done this one, that means you have now kept your dreams very clear. You have known that this is what I want in my life. Now, next comes we see how to extrapolate these figures. So what we do, we discover the next figures. Now, let us understand what's the meaning of the discovery. Discovery means that actually making the the amount which is being spent for each goal. And that too, let us remember, we're trying to estimate this cost as on date. So today, as a wise person, you go around, find out the cost of each and every goal, which is as on today. So these costs are something which is as on date. So when you want to go for your post graduation in maybe 2027, you go around and see how much is the post graduation cost comes up, and you have come around with this figure of 10 lakhs rupees. So we start estimating the figures as on date. My studio apartment costs say 25 lakhs rupees. The current bike which I want to buy, say it is of 3 lakhs rupees. So here what I'm doing in this particular sheet, I'm trying to translate all the costs of my goals as on date. So is it clear? So we have done it this way. Similarly, the day when I'm finding it out what's the cost of my studio apartment, that day only I'll find out what is the cost of a 2-bedroom house, what is the cost of a 3-bedroom house, and what is the cost of the villa. So these figures are as on date. Whatever the date you're choosing, you're designing it, that time we are putting it up. The moment it is set, and these figures can be different depending upon the city or the place where you're living, and depending upon the background you're coming from. And this is the programs which you're talking about. Maybe you have done your PG program, and the next, maybe once you're in employment, you want to upskill himself. Or if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you want to upskill your creative skills. That also you can be investing money. So these are all the amounts which we are doing it as on date. Similarly, if you can go around and find out how much does your cousin or your friend, somebody he spends on his wedding, you underestimate that, okay, today for the kind of a wedding it is happening, he is spending around 25 lakhs rupees. So I think at this point of time, we are very clear that we are estimating the cost of all the goals, which is as on date. So that means we have discovered the prices, or we have discovered the cost of all the things coming up over here as on date. Whether to have them as on date or not is the second part. But the first part is now trying to understand what is the cost of it. So this is the easy process. This may even take a time, but do put up your effort. Go around the city, see the real estate prices over there. Go and discover the different prices which the builders are offering, or maybe check around the cost which is happening. So once you rationalize all those things and you come up with an average price of it, and then you are set to go. Then you have understood, okay, these are the costs which is happening up. And now what is happening in the dreams, we are going towards the reality. We are pushing ourselves into directions where we want to make our life very with certain figures. Pay attention how I'll be doing the next sheet. So in this, my next sheet, what I'm doing it, I'm trying to make out exactly the future value costs of each and every goal. How do we do that? It's if anyone of you are in a simple mathematics, you know that the cost which is today, which was 10 lakhs rupees, after 3 years, say in 2027, this will inflate at the cost of the education, that is at 8%. That because of the inflation, the cost is going to go up. So technically what we try to say, suppose the cost which is say 10 lakhs rupees today. So after 3 years, the cost will inflate because of the inflation rate, which is say 1 plus 8% raised to power number of years. The number of years is here 3. So when you calculate that, we realize that what is 10 lakhs rupees today, it will not remain the same. Because of the inflation rate, it will go up to 12,59,700. And similarly, for the rest of the education goals, it is happening. And let us be understanding one important point. Not all the goals will go inflate at the same rate. So education may be having a different inflation rate. Your technology gadgets will have a different rate. The real estate prices will go in a different line. The car prices and the bike prices, they inflate on a different line. Wedding costs, it is very huge. It increases at different rates. So the day when you're preparing your financial plan, go through it and check through the different economic survey platforms and come up with a very rational figures. So these figures keeps changing every year, but predominantly it will be on the safer zone. So what will happening at this point of time? You're able to make out from a different goals, there are different inflation rate is coming. While people keep saying that, oh, inflation is happening at 6%, it does not impact the same for all the goals. It has a different rates for different goals. So having understood the importance of the inflation rate for different goals, we now start inflating those values. Like this one, we have inflated, say, for 2 years. This one, we have inflated for, say, 6 years. So on and so forth, we have done it. And for each and every goal, we have found out the values. So what was costing me 3 crores is the farmhouse today. Now, after 20 years, this is going to cost me 7.95 crores, which is approximately 8 crores it is coming up. So while at some date it may sound very big kind of a thing, but no worries. Once we cut it down and we arrive at the rightful financial plan action points, you will understand, oh, this is so easy. You know, similarly, what was the 25 lakhs rupees ka wedding expenses? If you notice, after 7 years, it is coming as 46 lakhs 27,000 because it is inflated because of the wedding cost has increased. So and so forth. We have understood even the vacation goals also keeps changing. What was costing 1 lakh rupees today, now that is also increasing because of the vacation goals. And this is how the values are changing year on year point of view. Now we are clear at this point of time. In this particular sheet, what we have done, we have arrived at the future cost of all the goals. Now we are coming on the next important sheet, which is very beautifully designed. Now what we have done here, that all the goals, once we have done it, now it comes that we are now trying to design it. You know, we are trying to wonder how we are going to do that. So once we have reached over here, what we do, most of all the goals, it need not be self-funded. Some can be coming from my own pockets. Some I'll be putting through the EMIs, or I may be taking the loans, or some I may be having my parents who is supporting me to do it, or my friend who is supporting me, or my spouse is supporting me. So there may be any many parameters, you know. So the entire corpus which is required to fund that particular goal, it need not be a planned kind of a thing. Some of the planning happens because of the funds which is required from your income sources, and certain portion can come from your EMIs also, because for sure we sometimes do not have the total amount of the money required to fulfill that particular dream. That doesn't mean that we will not take up the dream. We will fulfill the dream. But yes, we will meticulously calculate, we'll meticulously understand how much EMI I'll be taking, ensuring that the EMI does not exceed more than 30% of my income. So it keeps me in the balance. Now, let us see how we are trying to do that. So, at this particular point of time, what we start doing, we start rationalizing for every goal. So, this is a parameter which we have to decide. Sit through, think properly, and decide whether it is should be 50% or 40% or 60%, depending upon your lifestyle and depending upon the supporting partners you have in your life. Say, for example, the 3 lakhs of my bike cost, I'm getting it funded 50% from my own funds and 50% I'm taking EMI, or I'm taking it from my parents. So, like that, for each and every goal, I'll be making a estimation of it. Maybe for the education, which is 12 lakhs rupees, 12.59 lakhs rupees, I'll be getting, say, 50% funded from my own pockets, and 50% I'll be taking my EMI also. This is the way we keep plotting for each and every goal. For the home also, maybe I'm taking only 50% as a loan, and the remaining 50% I'm funding it. So and so forth. For each and every goal, we can do it. Not necessarily for everything, it has to be self-funded or taken a loan. Some of the loans, we can say that, okay, I don't want this particular goal at this point of time because it is exceeding my EMI limit of my salary. So I will not go for it. So here you have to act with lot of prudence, lot of understanding, and lot of alertness and intelligence. Not the financial plans are never made you to sacrifice any of the goals. Or financial plan is made to explain you how you can fulfill all your goals, and that too just by maybe adjusting or readjusting your timelines. A slight readjustment of your timelines and a slight reallocation of your funds, it puts everything in the track. So and so forth we have done for each and every goal. I think we are very clear now. We have now arrived at this is my figures. So these are my goals for each and every year. So once this figure is done, and again, as I mentioned, we have now divided into buckets of 5 years each. The moment we do it in buckets of 5 years each, things are very easy for us. So the first one, which is the nearest goal, we cannot take too much of risk. While they say that, oh, you're young, you can go for a high risk product. No, it doesn't mean that. Being you young doesn't mean that you can take a high risk kind of a thing. Being young means that you have appetite to take a high risk, but that doesn't mean that you, for your short-term goals or your near-term goals, you will blow up your money or put it in some equity funds or some F&O funds, which is very volatile. So the first 5 years, whatever the goals are there, we try to put it in a very safe zone. This is irrespective of my age. Even if I'm 21 or 45 or 55, if it is a near-term goal, I have to put it in a safe instruments. So that is the logic of putting the different buckets, 8%, 10%, 12%, 15%. So these are the estimates which has been based by the last 10, 15 years, what is happening. As an investor or the new investors, we should never be carried about, okay, this particular fund is giving me 25% or 40%. No, I have to match my goals with respect to the products. Product should not be matched to my life. I should match my life goals to the product. So that is the essence of drawing this particular design. So we have done this now. The most important point of it, what we do, we summarize each bucket value. Like the last 15 years, the last 5 years of the 20 years bucket, the total amount of money required is this 39 lakhs rupees. How we arrived this? We have arrived it by discounting the future value on the present date with respect to the rate of instrument which is given. For some of you who are very fresh, who may not be knowing what it means, it just means that if I need 1 crore 23 lakhs 48,000 after 15 years to build that 1 crore 23 lakhs, how much amount I should invest today in an instrument which is giving me 15% return. It is translated or it has been worked out that I should invest 13 lakhs 19,000. So that is what we use the word called as a discounting, or we use the word called as a present value. It is simply translated that if I invest today 13 lakhs 19,000 rupees in an instrument which is giving me 15% return, after 15 years, I will have 1 crore 23 lakhs with me and I can fulfill my financial goals. So that is the concept. So this is a very simple mathematical formulas. Those of you are interested and would love to learn from us, you can reach out to us. We are very happy to teach you all those things. And I highly recommend every young investor should learn these basic principles of finances. Once you learn these basic finances, everything in life is easy. It's a way like learning a car or something like that. We learn only once. We don't have to keep learning it rest of our life. The same way finances has to be learned only once in a lifetime and it is sorted. We don't have to keep learning in tits and bits here and there from the friends or from the different YouTubes, nothing like that. It should be learned only once and as it is. So the framework which works for me, it will not work for you. What works for you, it will not work for your friend. So that is the logic behind understanding the finance with seriousness. When we learn finance with seriousness, then life is fun, not the other way around. Finance is not fun. Finance is serious, life is fun. So once we summarize that, these are my requirements, we calculate how much is the SIP required for each of them. SIP is nothing but systematic investment plan where we invest every month on month a periodic amount of money in a safer instruments like mutual funds and all those things, which when we use the word safer, do not be under the misunderstanding that we are talking like guaranteed products. No, they are subject to the market risk, but yes, a little bit of a risk gives a high return and it is in a very well-regulated environment it is being done. So you can and we should in the long term should invest in equities, especially in a country like India, where with the next 10 years, we are in the best zone and we are coming up in the top 5 economies of the world there. So having calculated that, we have understood that this is my SIP for each and every bucket. So the last bucket, I require 49,000 to 45 SIP, which means I have to invest this much of amount every month on month for the next 20 years, 45,000 for the next 15 years, and 30,000 for the next 10 years, and 42,000 for the next 5 years. So once I total it up, I should now understand how I'm going to do it. I'm sure at this point of time, all of you may be feeling that, oh, it is too big a number. How would I do that? And then most of us quit at this particular point. So this is not the point to quit. This is not the point where you should give up that, I cannot invest or I should not invest or it is not meant for me. It is meant for the people who are wealthy. No, you should not quit at this point. I will show you how it works. Now, having understood that, now let us come to the most important part of it, where you'll be creating your own destiny. When we say that creating your own destiny, we are not talking something which is very hypothetical or something which is very impossible kind of a lifestyle. What we are trying to do, we are now going towards the actionable steps. So now what has happened? If I go by the regular SIP as my calculations, I understood that I need to have 1,63,943 rupees every month on month, which I need to invest. So at this point of time, I'm sure some of you may be feeling that this is impossible. No, we have a very beautiful concept of step up SIP, where what happens, the regular SIP, which you have to do it uniformly, there is a beautiful mathematical formula by which it is gets restructured so the same equivalent amount of the target can be achieved by stepping up. Like you start with 22,756 over here, and every year on year, you step up your SIP by 10%. So this is the way we calculate, and we arrived at when we do a step up SIP, we have to invest in 94,371 every month on month. Now, again, for most of you, let me again tell you. So this is again not a very big figure. If you think that in terms of the income which you're having, no, I will show you the next step how it works out. The next step it will be now breaking it up. This 94,371 is for the first 5 years. And then subsequently what happens, this amount will be out of your pockets. It will be next stop. Why? Because you have fulfilled most of your goals over here. Once these goals are achieved, now you're left with only this much amount of SIP, which comes to 61,612. Okay. Now, after 10 years, what happens? Even these goals will be also fulfilled. So the moment these goals are also fulfilled, this SIP will stop and you will be left with only 44,492. This much of amount you have to be doing as a SIP. Okay. Now, after 15 years, what will happen? All these goals will be fulfilled and you have to just do 22,756 as your SIP. Now, that sounds very beautiful. That is one particular point because now instead of 1,63,000, now it has come down to a very base level kind of thing. And here is a very important missing point, which all of you have to note it down. These are all the figures which is constant. And now what is growing in your life? The things which is growing in your life is your income. When the income is growing, what happens? The percentage of SIP to your income, it will reduce drastically. Maybe in the beginning, it will be say 30%, but eventually it will come down. Why? Because now your income is increasing, so the gap is also increasing. So you'll be having a lot many more surplus amount. When you are having a lot many surplus money, it will give you sufficient space for you to have other goals. So probably at that particular point of time, you'll be having your children, you have to plan for their education, and you'll be planning for their wedding too. And maybe planning for the most important one, which we haven't shown over here, because that is a very isolated topic. That is the retirement purpose. While most of us want to retire early and pursue a dream, that is what we always say. So the retirement planning has to be done in a very isolated way. That is a separate and a most important goal which has to be done. Rest all of the goals are the lifestyle goals which can be readjusted or which can be funded by the EMIs. But the retirement goal cannot be funded by EMIs or it cannot be readjusted because that thing is destined to happen. And retirement is not something like at the age of 60. It just means at a point of age when you want to have a sufficient income which will fund your incomes, which will fund your lifestyle expenses month on month. And you don't have to worry about going to some workplace or to stay in a continuation of an income generating profession. No, it has to be something which is supporting your basic lifestyle so that you can have your own requirements or you can have your own goals as such, or maybe you want to set up your own startup or something like that. Startups is something every entrepreneur is dreaming about, whether you're a fresh graduate or whether you're working or whether you're already 10 years of experience. When you want to have a startup comes with a lot of responsibility because there you're supporting another 8 or 10 or maybe 500 employees with you and you're responsible for their lives. So first take responsibility of your life, sufficiently fund for it, make this beautiful blueprint. Yes, sometimes on your own doing is difficult, but don't worry. Take the first basic step kind of a thing. You will have very nice professional financial advisors definitely in your circle and you reach out to them. And once you reach out to them, they help you in establishing the right goals for you. Establishing the right goals is the first and the only big step for your wealth creations. Wealth creation doesn't start with starting your investment. No. It starts when we establish our right goals, and that too when we establish it at the right timeline, and that too when we do it in a very holistic way, not in just tricks and ways. It's not that, okay, let me first buy a house, then I'll buy a bike, then I'll buy a this. No, not like that. Let us make the entire goals in one blueprint, in one sheet, and the rest of the life falls into place. I hope this was very interesting for you, and I'm sure this is going to take a long way ahead. If you have liked it, please reach out to us and we will have a detailed understanding, a detailed explanation of the calculations. And once you learn that, you'll be happy for the rest of your life.